Parasyte the Maxime, episode 18, More Than Human. This was a really, really good episode because we not only do we get the conclusion to the crazy cliffhanger ending confrontation of the last episode, but just this whole episode I think was really good because of how they advanced the story, because we get Shinichi, who actually does get the baby, which I was right, that kind of was Reiko's plan, was to give Shinichi the baby, and it was simply to have the baby raised, as a normal human. And I was kind of blown away by the fact that that scene ended up being as dramatic as it was, because I never would have thought that the the character of Reiko would make me sad when she died, and that really, really surprised me, because she becomes something totally different, and we'd seen that before, and we'd seen it continue to happen, but in this episode it was in a good way. And we saw her save the baby in the last one, but she also killed a guy at the same time, so it was kind of like, that was, it was love for the baby, but she totally like pierced the guy straight through his spine, and he fell over a banister to his death. So it was kind of like, I guess it's in the middle. But this was like, she just stood there getting shot up, and ultimately it did result in her dying, which really surprised me, because I hadn't thought about it, but they can still die if they get attacked. I'm so used to, since we saw the 5-part parasite, I kind of forget that they can just get shot and killed technically. So it kind of surprised me, when she was getting shot up and she's protecting the baby and everything. And it was a really good scene. And so she's getting shot up. It did make me laugh though, because it was like maybe 2 minutes straight, and it was just like, so it kind of started to make me laugh, because she was just standing still for quite a while before she eventually started to walk towards Shinichi. But it was really good. I was like, this is surprisingly a really great moment, and it's one of the weird sort of, obviously she's a villain, but this sort of weird in the middle type villain, and she sacrifices herself and she protects the baby, and like she puts her hair down and stuff, and the bullets just bounce right off of her hair and stuff. And the baby was surprisingly calm, but I think that was for dramatic purposes, because I don't know how many times a baby has been in continuous gunfire and didn't cry from just loud shots going off. So that was kind of interesting. I was like, that baby would definitely be crying in real life. You just got bullets going off all over the place, and just guns firing. Guns are super freaking loud. You just have guns repeatedly going off. That's gonna make a difference. But it was just very interesting. I was like, that was a really cool moment. And then she gives the baby to Shinichi, and then she actually dies. And he, and I couldn't believe this happened either, but he's actually somewhat brought back to being even more like himself. And they show all of the really sad stuff that's already happened to him, and the people that he's lost, and how he's changed, and how that hurts him as well, where he hurts Murano and how she feels about him, and he's hurt her because he's in this weird sort of whatever type of state where he doesn't have emotions. And all of that came flooding back in, and we even got a glimpse of the fortune teller woman, which I'd forgotten about her. So that was actually really cool, because he thought, oh, the person that can open up that hole again is dead, because it's the parasite that killed my mother. But we find out that it's actually this new mother, and she pulled. I thought it was really mean when it first happened, but ultimately I guess it kind of worked out to be okay. But when Reiko changed her face to Shinichi's mother, I was like, that was really messed up that she did that to him. But it helped him understand that she wanted him to have the baby. It wasn't like a weird trick or anything like that, because of course they were backing up, like, she's suddenly walking towards us instead of anybody else, because she could easily just take off or kill everyone around. She could have easily done that, because they, oddly enough, even with it being guns, that wouldn't have been, we saw how much damage she had to take, and she was standing completely still that entire time, and they were shooting her from behind as well. So she could have been shot, straight in the heart too. And if she wanted to, she could have attacked and taken off, or just defended herself and killed everyone there. Excuse me. But when she changed her face, I was like, man, that was kind of messed up. But ultimately it was to help Shinichi understand, like, I want you to take this baby because I want it to be normal, because it is normal at this point, and I want it to be human and live a normal human life. And then she says thank you, which of course caught me off guard, like, where did thank you come from? Like, we don't need, well, you know, that's kind of a need, like, because that's how the parasites work. It's like, what do we need? And then there's basically no wants. They need to survive, although they don't need to survive on humans, which she flat out says in this episode again. But it was just a really great moment, and they show all the sad stuff. And Murno, who fortunately also didn't die in this episode, because I was thinking, like, okay, I thought it was great, honestly, when she heard the gunshots and she was like, there's no way he's there. But basically, she was like, it doesn't matter because I'm done with this. And she's taking off. I was like, that is good. That is really freaking smart. And then she kind of got pulled back in by Kana's ghost. So I was like, alright, because it was her spirit, I guess. And I can somewhat see that as a possibility because, you know, they both have that sort of sensory ability. I guess I could kind of see in a weird sense where she could kind of feel something kind of pulling her back. So she does get there and she asks him, like, you know, are you really back? And that was a great moment too. And he turns and he has, you know, tears actually running down his face, or at least out of one eye, and then the other eye finally starts up, which is kind of funny to me because his left eye was just like, just straight tears, and then his right eye finally started, and it was like, my tears aren't like one tear finally comes down. But I thought it was really good. That was a great moment. And then towards the end, where we have this random serial killer guy who's also apparently has this sensory type of ability. He's going through this list of people, and I like what they did with the woman because that was freaking hilarious to me. Because the first guy comes in, he's like, "Oh, this guy's a total fake. Get him out." You know, he leaves, and it's like, "Oh, you guys are cruel." And he actually tries. Well, he started. Apparently, he actually did start, and that was like the funniest thing to me. But when Shinichi gets in there, and he makes the joke, he's like, "Oh, if you dressed up like a woman, you'd be good spank material." I saw this in Japanese, so for anyone who saw it on Toonami, because that's how I'm doing it, of course. But I had to watch in Japanese again. I might end up just doing that in general when I'm not at home, because that way I don't have to wait, you know, 3 extra days to see it. But it's like, oh, you know, if you dressed up as a woman, you know, you be just like that woman, you definitely help. And he laughed, and he did one of the quickest non-comedic anime transformations I've ever seen. Because in a lot of anime, they do that where the person's like, ha ha ha, and then they, in like a split second, it's like, and they get like that crazy serious face. But for him, he was genuinely making a joke. It was like, ha, and then he looked and was just like, and it got super dark, and he had like the shadows on his eyes. They played the music, which I've talked about this before. They play odd music in this anime. It does tend to fit because it's menacing, but the tones and the beats that they use, I was like, I feel like someone should just come in here and start rapping off of this beat that they're using. And it was so funny because I'm like, this just sounds like a rap beat to me. And it was just kind of funny during that scene. I was like, it does fit. It is a fairly tense song, but it's just got like, you know, little beats in there and stuff. I'm like, someone could just rap on this and it would totally be funny. But I love the way they did that. And he's like, hey, tell this kid to look right in my eyes. And then he looks up and it's like, it goes off. And this has to, I think this is honestly my favorite cliffhanger that they've had for an episode, which is really crazy. But this one, I was just like, I didn't feel like it was the end of the episode. I guess it just felt like so little had happened. Like, it just flew by. And so I'm watching it, and I'm like, oh man, he's about to say something. And then they show the guy's face, and then it kind of was just like, what? Like, how is that the end of the episode? It seems so incredibly fast. But I will wait until next week. Once again, this is one of the ones I'm really excited for. They did that last time when the 5-part Parasyte came in. I really wanted to just skip ahead and start watching it. But I'm going to wait until next week to watch the next episode. But I certainly enjoyed this one. I'm assuming this guy has a good enough sensory ability where he will find out that Shinichi's a parasite. And if not, then maybe in some crazy random way, Migi will end up falling asleep, and so that will be, you know, that'll be what allows Shinichi to kind of pass this guy's test, because he can sense it now. But maybe if Migi got tired and, you know, passed out, he'd be like, oh, I thought I felt something, or I did feel something for like a second, but then it went away. And as far as they know, that shouldn't be possible because parasites are just parasites. So I'm very excited to see where the heck they take this. Because I watched it online, I watched it on Hulu, because Hulu has actually a buttload of anime. I was reading the comments, and one person who read the manga mentioned that apparently the serial killer, because that's who the guy was, they say in like one quick line, but he's a serial killer. His backstory is in the manga, but apparently is a bit too much, or maybe they won't get into it just yet, so I won't explain what it is, but it's a serial killer, and it's a very serious type of stuff, so I'm kind of curious if they're gonna go into that, so I won't say what it is, because I figured, they would have explained it because he was just introduced, but they're kind of doing it in passing, so they might give his backstory, they might not, but, I mean, as a serial killer, you can probably imagine why he's a serial killer. You can imagine what he's done. But I enjoyed this episode. It was crazy how impactful Reiko's death was, which I just did not expect for her character. I never would have thought her death would be so dramatic and cause such a great moment for the series. I thought it would be a cool moment if she did die. I knew it would at least be important, but I didn't think it would be like impactful important, and it certainly was. Even for Shinichi himself, it was actually, life-changing. And it was a really dramatic moment because they played the music from the end of the episode and everything. And as we all know, in any anime, if they played the ending theme song during the episode, that's a moment to remember from the anime. And they definitely did that. And it was a really well-done moment. So, very excited to see where they go with things. Who knows what's going to happen with the rest of the parasites, because, we have basically the scientist of all the parasites. She's dead now. We have the 3 other parasites that she took out in the last episode. Of course, there are like a ton more, but those were the ones that we knew. They were on like this weird sort of council. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with this council and like the guy who's the mayor and stuff like that, because that was never, so far at least, that hasn't been nearly as big of a deal as I thought it was going to end up being. So maybe it will become that once it's basically like the mayor guy and the 5-part parasite, because now we've lost our one true connection to the other parasites in Reiko when she sacrificed herself, and so everyone else is almost irrelevant. They hold important roles, but ultimately the 5-part parasite only showed up a couple episodes ago, and the mayor thing, like I said, hasn't been nearly as big of a deal as I really thought it was going to be. He won, and they're just blending in, and that's pretty much it. And they've done their little experiments, like they killed the Yakuza so that they wouldn't draw attention, so they basically killed the illegal organization, and so it's like, oh, another illegal organization did that. So I'm curious what they're going to be doing with them. I'm assuming it's going to be something. Murano does meet up with their friends in this episode, and we still haven't had this girl say anything to anyone like, hey, paint thinner really messed that one guy up. Still haven't had that scene, and it's driving me crazy, but I certainly enjoyed this episode. I know because I saw the full Japanese version of the episode. The next one is titled In Cold Blood, so I'm really looking forward to that. It kind of worries me that maybe Shinichi will do something crazy, or maybe it just gets crazy in general, but I'm looking forward to it. Definitely want to know what you guys thought about this episode, so please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts, your least favorite parts, and I want to know if you guys think Shinichi will actually get busted in the next episode, because like I said, the whole Migi thing, that's kind of helped them out before. It's also gotten them busted before, like with the Hideo guy. He's like, oh, there should have been some sort of reaction, and that's kind of how he figured out the whole Migi falls asleep deal for a limited amount of time. So I don't know, it's one or the other. He's so close, and they're just right there, but I feel like if he got busted, he'd be trapped. Basically, he'd be stuck with the cops, and they'd be doing investigations on him all the time, because they'd have at least what they deem enough to hold him prisoner. And his dad can't do anything. They'll just be like, well, we're just going to send you locked up somewhere else. So they could do that. They probably wouldn't. I don't know. They don't seem like the type of people that would do that. But they're also dealing with parasites, and Shinichi's obviously been hiding stuff from them. So if they found out the truth 100%, they might take some fairly extreme measures, because he's been lying to them for so long. But I want to know if you guys think he's going to get busted or not, and of course what you guys thought about this episode in general, because it was definitely a really good one. So please comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.